The Galactic Council's emergency session hall buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from across the spiral arm gathered in unprecedented numbers. Ambassador Zephyria of the Altarian Federation tapped her crystalline fingers against the polished obsidian table, her bioluminescent patches flickering with anxiety. The holographic display at the center of the chamber showed disturbing footage that had been circulating through diplomatic channels for weeks. "Honorable delegates," announced Prime Counselor Thexvar, his deep voice resonating through his four-chambered throat. "We convene today to address reports of impossible military technology emerging from the human territories. What we're witnessing defies our understanding of physics itself." The display shifted, showing grainy sensor data from a trade route near the Perseus arm. Massive vessels materialized from seemingly empty space, their hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. These ships moved without conventional propulsion signatures, bending space around them in ways that made veteran space captains question their instruments. Captain Mordek of the Hegemony Defense Force leaned forward, his reptilian features twisted with concern. "3 of our patrol squadrons have encountered these vessels. They appear from nowhere, scan our ships with unknown energy signatures, then vanish back into what our sensors read as empty space. No warp signatures, no dimensional rifts, nothing that matches any known technology in our databases." The Vextai representative, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, pulsed with agitation. "Our quantum sensors detected gravitational anomalies in 17 systems along the human border. These distortions suggest the presence of massive objects that simply don't exist on any spectrum we can perceive. It's as if the humans have learned to weaponize the very fabric of reality." Ambassador Krisa from the Insectoid Collective chittered nervously. "My hive mind has analyzed the data extensively. The energy readings suggest the manipulation of dark matter on an industrial scale. Such technology should be impossible for a species that achieved faster-than-light travel only 2 centuries ago." Prime Counselor Thexvar's expression grew grave. "The implications are staggering. If humans have indeed mastered dark matter manipulation, they possess the ability to create weapons and defenses that operate beyond our detection capabilities. An entire fleet could be lurking in any system, completely invisible to our most advanced sensors." The chamber erupted in worried murmurs as the full scope of the situation became clear. For millennia, the Galactic Council had maintained peace through careful balance of power among member species. Each civilization brought unique technologies and capabilities, but none had achieved such a dramatic advantage that it could threaten the stability of the entire galactic community. Dr. Yilmoth, the Council's chief science advisor, activated a 3-dimensional model showing the theoretical principles behind dark matter manipulation. "Based on our analysis, the humans appear to be using dark matter as both a construction medium and an energy source. Their vessels exist partially in what we might call shadow space, present but undetectable by conventional means." "How is this possible?" demanded General Vortak of the Krillian Empire. "Our intelligence networks have monitored human technological development for decades. They showed promise in quantum mechanics and exotic matter research, but nothing that suggested this level of advancement." The holographic display switched to surveillance footage from human colonies. Massive construction projects dotted their worlds, with materials being assembled that seemed to flicker in and out of existence. Workers operated machinery that manipulated invisible substances, building structures that cast no shadows and reflected no light. "Our deep space monitoring stations have detected unusual activity in human space," reported Intelligence Director Zaltun. "They've been constructing what appear to be research facilities in the void between star systems, far from conventional shipping lanes. These installations are completely invisible to our sensors, detectable only by the gravitational effects of the dark matter they're manipulating." Ambassador Zephyria's patches dimmed with worry. If humans can build invisible weapons platforms anywhere in the galaxy, the entire balance of power has shifted overnight. How do we defend against an enemy we cannot see or detect? The Prime Counselor raised his hand for silence. We must be careful not to assume hostile intent. Humanity has been a cooperative member of the galactic community since first contact. However, the potential implications of this technology cannot be ignored. A new voice spoke from the shadows at the edge of the chamber. Perhaps we should consider why humans developed such technology in secret. The speaker stepped into the light, revealing herself as Commodore Valana of the Council's Special Operations Division. Our analysis suggests this development was not intended for galactic conquest, but for protection against something else entirely. The chamber fell silent as the implications of her words sank in. Commodore Valana continued, Human deep space exploration vessels have been venturing beyond the galactic rim for the past 50 years. Their public reports describe routine survey missions, but classified intelligence suggests they've encountered something that prompted the urgent development of defensive technologies. The holographic display now showed star charts of the galaxy's edge, with red markers indicating human exploration routes. Notice the pattern, Valana pointed out. Human dark matter facilities are concentrated along approach vectors from intergalactic space. This suggests they're not preparing for war with us, but defending against an external threat. Dr. Yilmoth's cybernetic implants whirred as he processed the data. The energy signatures we've detected are consistent with defensive rather than offensive applications. Shield generators, sensor dampeners, stealth systems designed to hide entire fleets rather than project force. But from what are they hiding? Asked Captain Mordek. The answer came from an unexpected source. A transmission beacon activated at the center of the chamber, projecting the image of a human figure. Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Coalition appeared in the hologram, her expression serious but not hostile. Honorable members of the Galactic Council, she began. I apologize for the dramatic nature of this communication, but circumstances have forced our hand. What you've observed is indeed dark matter technology, developed in response to a threat that endangers not just humanity, but every sentient species in this galaxy. The chamber erupted in shocked voices, but the Admiral continued. 3 years ago, our deep space reconnaissance vessels detected artificial structures in the void between galaxies. These constructs are vast beyond comprehension, and they're moving toward our galaxy with purpose and intelligence. Our projections indicate they will reach the outer rim within the next decade. The holographic display shifted to show massive geometric structures drifting through the cosmic void. Even at this distance, their size dwarfed entire star systems. Strange energies coursed along their surfaces, and smaller craft could be seen moving in complex patterns around them. We call them the Devourers, Admiral Chen explained. Every galaxy they've encountered has gone dark within a century of their arrival. We believe they consume stellar energy itself, leaving behind empty space where civilizations once thrived. The silence in the chamber was deafening. Centuries of political maneuvering and territorial disputes suddenly seemed insignificant in the face of an existential threat to all life in the galaxy. Our dark matter technology was developed as a means of defense, the Admiral continued. Traditional weapons and shields are useless against beings that can manipulate space-time itself. Only by operating in shadow space can we hope to mount any effective resistance. Prime Counselor Thexavar found his voice first. Why didn't you share this information with the Council immediately? Because, Admiral Chen replied grimly, our analysis suggests that the Devourers are drawn to high-energy signatures and advanced technology. Broadcasting this knowledge across standard communication networks would have been like sending them a dinner invitation. Our dark matter communication systems are the only safe way to coordinate a galactic defense. The implications were staggering. Every species in the chamber represented billions of lives that could be snuffed out by an enemy beyond their comprehension. The humans had been quietly preparing for a war that could determine the survival of their entire galaxy. Commodore Velana stepped forward. "What do you propose, Admiral?" "Integration," Chen answered without hesitation. "We're willing to share our dark matter technology with all Council species, but only under strict security protocols. We need to begin immediate preparation of defensive systems and evacuation procedures. Most importantly, we need to do this without alerting the Devourers to our presence." The chamber buzzed with urgent conversations as representatives consulted with their home governments through quantum entanglement communicators. The balance of power hadn't just shifted, the entire game had changed. Humanity had gone from being one voice among many to potentially being the galaxy's only hope for survival. Dr. Yilmoth was already running calculations on his neural implants. "If we begin immediate construction of dark matter facilities, using human expertise and council resources, we might be able to establish defensive perimeters around critical systems. But the scale of the operation would be unprecedented." "What choice do we have?" asked Ambassador Zephyria, her bioluminescent patterns now pulsing with determination. "If these Devourers are real, every day we delay brings them closer to our worlds." Admiral Chen nodded grimly. "Time is our most precious resource. The Devourers move slowly by galactic standards, but they move constantly. Our window for preparation is limited, and once they detect organized resistance, they may accelerate their approach." As the session concluded, delegates prepared to return to their home worlds with the most significant intelligence briefing in galactic history. The age of petty territorial disputes and trade negotiations had ended. The age of survival had begun. The human dark matter vessels continued their patrols along the galactic rim, no longer mysterious threats, but the first line of defense for every living being in the galaxy. Their invisible hulls carried not weapons of conquest, but the hopes and fears of countless civilizations facing their darkest hour. In the depths of space, the Devourers continued their inexorable approach, unaware that their next target was preparing to fight back with weapons they couldn't see and strategies they couldn't predict. The greatest war in galactic history was about to begin, and humanity held the key to victory or defeat for every species that called the galaxy home. 6 months had passed since Admiral Chen's revelation, and the galaxy had transformed into a massive construction zone. The integration of human dark matter technology with alien engineering capabilities produced results that surpassed even the most optimistic projections. In the Vega shipyards, Altarian crystal singers worked alongside human technicians to grow dark matter containment vessels that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Commander Elena Vasquez floated in zero gravity within the construction bay, watching as her engineering teams installed quantum resonance chambers into what would become the galaxy's first truly invisible dreadnought. The ship's hull phased in and out of visible spectrum as dark matter particles aligned with regular matter in precise patterns. "Structural integrity holding at 97%, reported Chief Engineer Morrison, his neural interface glowing as he communicated directly with the ship's quantum AI. "The hegemony plasma conduits are integrating perfectly with our dark matter flow systems." Elena nodded, still amazed by what they had accomplished in such a short time. The ship before her represented not just advanced technology, but unprecedented cooperation between species that had viewed each other with suspicion for centuries. Krillian armor plating phased through Vextai energy matrices, while insectoid biocomputers processed tactical data through human quantum networks. "Commander, incoming priority transmission from Deep Space Station Omega," announced Lieutenant Torres from the communications array. The message crackled with interference from the station's position at the galaxy's edge, where human sensors maintained constant watch for Devourer activity. The holographic display materialized above Elena's workstation, showing the weathered face of Captain Marcus Webb. Behind him, the station's bridge bustled with activity as crew members from dozens of species worked at monitoring stations. Elena, we've got movement on the perimeter. 3 Devourer scout constructs have entered our detection grid. They're still 18 months out, but their approach vector has changed. They're heading directly for inhabited systems instead of following their previous survey pattern. Elena felt ice forming in her stomach. The intelligence briefings had suggested the Devourers would conduct systematic sweeps of the galaxy before beginning their consumption process. A direct approach to populated systems indicated they had detected something that attracted their attention. "What's their apparent target?" she asked, already dreading the answer. "The Centauri cluster," Webb replied grimly. 12 inhabited systems, including 3 major council worlds. Combined population of 47 billion beings. The magnitude of the threat hit Elena like a physical blow. The Centauri cluster represented one of the most densely populated regions of Council space. If the Devourers reached it before defenses were in place, the resulting catastrophe would be beyond comprehension. "Sir, our dark matter sensor grid shows additional movement in the deep void," reported Ensign Kim from her position at the exotic matter detection station. "The main Devourer fleet has altered course as well. It appears the scout constructs are coordinating with a much larger force." Elena's mind raced through tactical possibilities. The galaxy's new dark matter defenses were impressive, but they were designed to protect key systems gradually, not to respond to a concentrated assault on a single cluster. The construction schedule would need to be accelerated dramatically. "Captain Webb, what's our current defensive capability in the Centauri region?" 3 dark matter defense platforms online, with 2 more under construction. The invisible fleet elements include 4 stealth destroyers and 1 heavy cruiser. Against 3 Devourer scout constructs, our odds are marginal at best. Elena turned to her engineering team. "How quickly can we deploy additional dark matter vessels to Centauri?" Chief Engineer Morrison consulted his neural interface before responding. "The prototype squadron could be operational within 72 hours, but they haven't completed full systems integration. We'd be sending ships with untested technology into combat against an enemy we don't fully understand. Better than letting 47 billion beings face the Devourers with no protection at all," Elena replied. "Begin immediate deployment preparations. I want every available dark matter vessel moving toward Centauri within the day." The next several hours blurred together as the shipyard transformed into a hive of frantic activity. Species that had maintained formal diplomatic relations for centuries now worked side by side, sharing technology and expertise with desperate urgency. Altarian engineers sang harmonic frequencies that helped align dark matter particles, while Krillian technicians installed weapon systems that could fire from shadow space into normal reality. Admiral Chen's voice echoed through the facility as she addressed the combined fleet via quantum entanglement communicator. "All vessels, this is Admiral Chen. Intelligence suggests the Devourers have detected our defensive preparations and are moving to test our capabilities. The engagement at Centauri will determine whether our galaxy has a fighting chance or whether we'll be consumed like all the others." Elena strapped herself into the command chair of the newly christened UGS Phantom, the first vessel to successfully integrate human dark matter technology with Council defensive systems. Around her, the bridge crew represented every major species in the galaxy, their diverse forms united by a common purpose that transcended old rivalries and territorial disputes. "All stations report ready," announced First Officer Kretok, his insectoid features clicking with nervous energy. "Dark matter drive online, stealth systems active, weapons charged and phased for shadow space deployment." The fleet that departed from Vega shipyards would have been invisible to conventional sensors, but Elena could see them through the quantum resonance display that showed dark matter signatures. 12 vessels phased in and out of visible reality, their hulls rippling with exotic energies that bent light around them like living shadows. During the 3-day journey to Centauri, Elena reviewed everything humanity had learned about the Devourers. The massive constructs appeared to be artificial intelligences of staggering complexity, possibly the preserved consciousness of entire civilizations that had been consumed in previous galaxies. They fed on stellar energy by creating massive dark matter networks around stars, gradually draining their nuclear fires until entire systems went cold and dark. "Commander, we're receiving telemetry from the Centauri defense platforms," reported Lieutenant Yaresh, her telepathic abilities allowing her to interface directly with the quantum communication system. "The Devourer scout constructs have entered the outer system. They're unlike anything in our previous observations." The main display showed 3 geometric shapes that defied easy description. Each construct was roughly the size of a moon, but their surfaces seemed to fold in on themselves in ways that hurt to look at directly. Energy patterns coursed along their hulls in configurations that suggested they existed in more than the standard 3 dimensions of space. "They're scanning the inhabited worlds," reported the sensor operator, his neural implants glowing as he processed data from the dark matter detection grid. "Energy patterns suggest they're cataloging population centers and technological signatures." Elena felt a chill as she realized the implications. The Devourers weren't just random destroyers. They were systematic hunters who studied their prey before consumption. The fact that they had altered course to investigate Centauri suggested they had detected the galaxy's new defensive preparations and were probing for weaknesses. "Fleet Formation Alpha," Elena ordered. "All vessels maintain shadow space positioning until we have tactical confirmation of enemy capabilities." The engagement began when one of the Devourer constructs suddenly shifted its energy patterns and fired a beam of compressed space-time at Centauri Prime's orbital defense platforms. The attack didn't destroy the stations so much as erase them from existence, creating voids in space where matter had simply ceased to be. "That's not possible," breathed the science officer, his crystalline form flickering with confusion. "They're weaponizing the fundamental forces of reality itself." Elena's tactical training kicked in as she processed the enemy's capabilities. Conventional weapons and defenses were useless against beings that could manipulate the basic structure of space-time. Only by fighting from shadow space could they hope to engage the Devourers on equal terms. "All vessels, implement attack pattern Omega. Target the construct closest to Centauri Prime and coordinate fire from shadow space." The invisible fleet materialized just long enough to unleash concentrated dark matter weapons at their target. Exotic particles that existed between dimensions tore through the Devourer construct's hull, causing its geometric structure to collapse in on itself. For a moment, Elena dared to hope they had achieved a quick victory. Then the construct reformed, its surface rippling as it adapted to the new form of attack. The other 2 Devourers immediately shifted their positions, their sensor arrays focusing on the locations where the fleet's weapons fire had originated. "They can track us even in shadow space," reported the tactical officer. "Their sensor technology operates on principles we don't understand." The battle that followed tested every advancement the galaxy had made in dark matter technology. Ships phased in and out of reality, firing weapons that existed in multiple dimensions while defending against attacks that could erase matter from existence. The Devourers proved to be adaptive opponents, learning from each engagement and modifying their tactics accordingly. It was the Vextai energy being Cathara who made the breakthrough that turned the tide. Her unique nature allowed her to perceive energy patterns that organic beings couldn't detect, and she noticed something crucial about the Devourer constructs. "Commander, they're not truly artificial intelligences," she announced through the quantum communication system. "They're networks of preserved consciousness from consumed civilizations, held together by dark matter matrices. They're not invaders. They're refugees trying to survive by consuming other life forms." The revelation changed everything. If the Devourers were refugees rather than conquerors, There might be a way to negotiate or redirect their hunger toward uninhabited energy sources. Elena made a decision that would have seemed impossible at the start of the battle. "Cease fire," she ordered. "All vessels stand down but maintain defensive positions." Using the ship's dark matter communication array, Elena broadcast a message directly to the Devourer constructs. "We know what you are. We understand your need for survival. But consuming inhabited worlds is not the only option. We offer cooperation instead of destruction." The response came in the form of vast alien thoughts that pressed against her consciousness like a tide of desperate hunger. The Devourers had indeed been refugees once, survivors of their own galaxy's consumption who had learned to preserve themselves by becoming predators. They had wandered the void between galaxies for eons, driven by an insatiable need for energy that could only be satisfied by stellar consumption. But Elena's offer of cooperation opened a new possibility. Humanity's dark matter technology could potentially provide the Devourers with sustainable energy sources that didn't require the destruction of inhabited systems. Instead of being enemies, they could become allies in defending against whatever force had originally driven the Devourers from their home galaxy. The three scout constructs withdrew from Centauri space, but not in defeat. They carried Elena's proposal back to the vast fleet that approached from intergalactic space, beginning negotiations that could determine the future of not just one galaxy, but countless others threatened by an even greater darkness lurking in the cosmic void. As the combined fleet returned to base, Elena realized that humanity's dark matter technology had accomplished something unprecedented. It had turned potential destroyers into possible allies. But the true test would come when the main Devourer fleet arrived, and the galaxy learned whether cooperation could triumph over the endless hunger of the void. The massive space station that humanity had constructed in the void between galaxies existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously, its dark matter framework allowing representatives from both the Galactic Council and the Devourer Collective to meet in neutral territory. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before a viewing portal that showed the approaching Devourer fleet, their geometric forms stretching across light-years of space like a living constellation. "The preliminary negotiations have been successful," reported Dr. Marcus Reeves, the xenopsychologist who had spent months learning to communicate with preserved consciousness networks. "The Devourer Collective has agreed to a trial period of cooperation, but they're skeptical about our ability to provide sustainable energy alternatives." Chen nodded, watching as smaller Devourer constructs peeled away from the main fleet to approach the station. Each one contained the preserved minds of entire civilizations, billions of consciousness forced to survive by consuming the life force of others. The tragedy of their existence had become clear during the extended negotiations. They were not evil, merely desperate refugees driven to terrible acts by an ancient cosmic horror. "What have we learned about their original enemy?" Chen asked. Dr. Reeves activated a holographic display showing data compiled from Devourer memory cores. "They call it the Silence. It's some form of cosmic entity that exists in the void between galaxies, feeding on the fundamental forces that hold reality together. When it consumed their home galaxy, the Devourers were forced to preserve themselves by becoming nomadic energy harvester networks. The implications were staggering. If the Silence was real and still active, then every galaxy in the observable universe was potentially under threat. The Devourers hadn't been conquering civilizations. They had been running from something far worse while trying to maintain their existence in the only way they knew how. And now it's following them," Chen concluded grimly. "The Devourer constructs have detected long-range gravitational distortions consistent with Silence manifestation. Their projections suggest it will reach our galaxy within 50 years, regardless of whether we achieve successful cooperation." Chen turned away from the viewport to address the assembled representatives of both civilizations. The meeting chamber was a marvel of dark matter engineering. allowing beings of energy, matter, and preserved consciousness to interact safely. Prime Counselor Thexvar sat beside Commander Vel'Anna, while massive Devourer consciousness matrices floated in specially designed containment fields. "The situation has evolved beyond our original parameters," Chen announced. "We're no longer discussing defense against the Devourer fleet. We're planning the defense of reality itself against an enemy that threatens the fundamental structure of the universe." The primary Devourer consciousness, a collective entity that had once been the Andromedan Empire, pulsed with complex emotional resonances. "Your species proposes cooperation where others have offered only destruction, but the silence cannot be fought with conventional means. It exists between the spaces of reality, consuming the bonds that hold atoms together." Commander Elena Vasquez, who had been studying Devourer technology for months, stepped forward. "But that's exactly why our dark matter technology might be effective. We operate in shadow space, the same dimensional layers that the silence inhabits. Combined with your consciousness preservation techniques and energy manipulation capabilities, we might be able to develop weapons that can actually harm it." The Altarian representative, Ambassador Zephyria, flickered with curiosity. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Integration on a scale that's never been attempted," Elena explained. "We combine human dark matter manipulation with Devourer consciousness networks and Council technological diversity to create hybrid entities that can operate in multiple dimensional layers simultaneously." Dr. Yilmoth, the Council's chief science advisor, ran rapid calculations on his neural implants. "The energy requirements would be enormous. We'd need to harvest power from entire star systems without destroying the habitable worlds around them." The Devourer collective pulsed with something resembling excitement. "This is possible. Our energy harvesting techniques can be modified to draw power from stellar cores without extinguishing them. The process would actually extend star life cycles by optimizing fusion reactions." What followed was the most ambitious construction project in galactic history. Across thousands of systems, hybrid facilities began taking shape that combined the best of all three technological paradigms. Human dark matter technology provided the foundation, Devourer energy manipulation created the power systems, and Council species contributed specialized components that enhanced the overall capabilities. The first hybrid vessel to roll out of the combined shipyards was unlike anything that had ever existed. The UGS synthesis existed simultaneously in normal space, shadow space, and consciousness dimensions. Its crew included human officers, preserved Devourer consciousnesses, and representatives from every Council species, all linked through quantum neural networks that allowed instantaneous coordination. Captain Elena Vasquez, now promoted to command the experimental vessel, stood on a bridge that existed in 5 dimensions at once. Her consciousness had been partially integrated with Devourer memory cores, giving her access to millions of years of combat experience against cosmic-level threats. Around her, the crew worked at stations that manipulated dark matter, consciousness energy, and exotic matter simultaneously. "Long-range sensors are detecting massive gravitational distortions at the galaxy's edge," reported Lieutenant Torres, his human neural implants now enhanced with Devourer consciousness interface technology. "The readings are consistent with silence manifestation protocols." On the main display, space itself appeared to be unraveling at the boundaries of the galaxy. Stars began winking out one by one as something vast and incomprehensible consumed the fundamental forces that held them together. Unlike the Devourers, who preserved consciousness and sought survival, the silence was pure negation, erasing existence itself. "All hybrid vessels report ready," announced the ship's AI, which was actually a fusion of human quantum computers, Devourer consciousness networks, and Vextai energy matrices. "The combined fleet represents every major civilization in the galaxy, plus preserved knowledge from 17 consumed galaxies." Elena felt the weight of responsibility for every living being in their galaxy. The hybrid technology had proven effective in smaller tests, but this would be the ultimate trial. If they failed, not only would their own galaxy be consumed, but the universe would lose its only hope of stopping the silence's spread to other galactic clusters. "Begin deployment of the Dimensional Anchor Network," Elena ordered. Across the galaxy, thousands of hybrid stations simultaneously activated massive dark matter projectors that created stable zones in shadow space. The network would allow the fleet to maintain coherent existence even while engaging an enemy that consumed reality itself. The battle that followed transcended conventional warfare. Ships existing in multiple dimensions engaged an entity that was simultaneously everywhere and nowhere, fighting in spaces between atoms and in the gaps between thoughts. Human ingenuity provided tactical flexibility, devourer experience offered strategic depth, and council diversity brought innovative solutions to seemingly impossible problems. The silence manifested as regions of absolute negation that expanded through space like cosmic cancer. Wherever it touched, stars simply ceased to exist, leaving behind voids that weren't even empty space, but complete absence of any kind of reality. Traditional weapons passed through it harmlessly because there was nothing physical to target, but the hybrid technology proved capable of engaging the enemy on its own terms. Dark matter weapons fired from shadow space could actually strike the silence's dimensional boundaries, while consciousness energy projectiles disrupted its pattern of expansion. For the first time in cosmic history, the silence encountered resistance that could actually harm it. The battle raged across multiple dimensions and several star systems. The hybrid fleet learned to phase in and out of reality layers, striking at the silence from dimensional angles it couldn't defend against. Devourer consciousness networks provided computational power that could predict the entity's expansion patterns, while human tactical innovation found ways to exploit vulnerabilities that had never been discovered before. The turning point came when Elena made a desperate decision that would have been impossible without the consciousness integration technology. She voluntarily merged her awareness with the ship's hybrid AI and the Devourer collective memories, creating a singular entity capable of thinking in cosmic scales. From this expanded perspective, she could perceive the silence's true nature. It wasn't a single entity, but a network of quantum parasites that fed on the information patterns that created reality. By feeding false information into its network through precisely timed dark matter pulses, she could create logical contradictions that forced it to consume itself. "All vessels, implement pattern Omega," she broadcast through the consciousness network. "Target the information paradox points I'm transmitting. We're going to make the silence eat its own logic structures." The coordinated attack that followed was a masterpiece of multidimensional warfare. Every hybrid vessel fired simultaneously at specific points in space-time where Elena's expanded consciousness had detected logical vulnerabilities in the silence's structure. The entity, designed to consume reality, suddenly found itself consuming contradictory information that caused its own processing systems to collapse. The silence didn't die in any conventional sense, but rather unraveled like a cosmic equation with a fundamental error. The regions of negation began shrinking as reality reasserted itself, and the expanding void zones sealed themselves as normal space-time resumed its proper configuration. When the battle ended, Elena found herself back in her normal human consciousness, but forever changed by the experience of thinking on cosmic scales. Around her, the bridge crew represented every species in the galaxy, plus some that had been preserved within Devourer consciousness networks for millions of years. "Status report," she requested, still adjusting to thinking in linear time again. "The silence has been neutralized throughout this galactic cluster," reported the ship's AI. "However, long-range analysis suggests similar entities exist in other cosmic regions." The hybrid technology will be needed to protect other galaxies as well. Elena smiled as she realized the full implications of what they had accomplished. Humanity's dark matter technology hadn't just saved their own galaxy. It had provided the foundation for a defense network that could protect the entire observable universe. The combination of human innovation, devourer experience, and council diversity had created something greater than the sum of its parts. The Galactic Council expanded to become the Cosmic Preservation Alliance, with hybrid stations positioned throughout intergalactic space to detect and respond to silence manifestations. Former enemies had become not just allies, but partners in the greatest mission imaginable, protecting existence itself from forces that sought to unmake reality. Years later, as Elena stood on the observation deck of the latest hybrid starship, she watched new civilizations join the Alliance. Each species brought unique capabilities that enhanced the network's ability to defend against cosmic-level threats. The dark matter technology that had once seemed mysterious and threatening had become the foundation of the greatest cooperative endeavor in universal history. The galaxy was no longer just a collection of competing civilizations, but a unified force for preservation and growth. And at the center of it all, humanity's gift for finding unexpected solutions to impossible problems continued to drive innovation and discovery on scales that spanned entire galactic clusters. The universe had become a safer place, protected by beings who had learned that cooperation and understanding could triumph over even the most fundamental forces of destruction. The age of cosmic warfare had given way to an era of universal cooperation, with humanity's dark matter Warcraft serving as the invisible guardians of reality itself.